Welcome back. And of course, as you're all aware, President Muhammadu Buhari has said he is going to set up or form his cabinet in September. He actually disclosed that on his recent visit to the United States of America. Now, a lot of people have been very critical, especially economic experts now have been very critical of that decision. It's taking about 2 months now, and by September it will actually be 3 or 4 months since Buhari was sworn in as president, and he still hasn't got a cabinet. He says the cabinet will be put in place by September, but then this delay, a lot of experts have said, is causing too many problems for the country. And I've been joined on the program by Lanre Suraj, who is a civil society leader. Mr. Suraj, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let me just start by asking you, isn't Buhari just too careful here? Why do you think it will be taking a president such a long time to set up his cabinet?
Oh, thank you very much for having me. And I mean, I think it is one or two ways to actually look at this before we can appreciate the situation under which the president probably have found himself. There must have been too many assumptions about the people who actually populate the major political parties, the two major political parties in Nigeria. And as a matter of fact, you know, some of us have said clearly before now that the critical difference between the two political parties, most especially PDP and APC, is Buhari himself. And if you look at the composition of the National Assembly and the whole melodrama that was playing out, and is still playing out in that place, you will understand clearly that there are no really significant difference between members of the two political parties. So the information, and this I can also say, the information going around to the extent that the president had actually earlier forwarded about 36 names to the security apparatus in Nigeria to review and also conduct a deep investigation on the people, resulted in about 33 of them failing the basic test, you know, of integrity. And that tells you the enormity of how much we have so many compromised and politicians in the country.
But that is the...
Go on.
I was just going to ask you, isn't that a problem? Because it appears the president is looking for saints in this country, and the fact is that he might have a difficulty in finding saints. He should just get people who can do the job.
No, DG. We need this is going to also be a very interesting dimension to it, and that is what I've also told a number of my colleagues. It is going to be in the interest of Nigeria, and for once we should both assist the president and then encourage him with the reality on ground, and as also dictates the dimension for which people should be appointed in political offices. It shouldn't be politicians, and that is where the challenge is. They probably are looking at politicians and members of the political parties. So now the reality is clear now. So the next level, and which would be our demand, is to the extent that then members of the cabinet should be formed outside immediate members and families of the political parties. It means that if the president is sincere about looking at people with, if we don't want to say saints, people with lesser culpability in terms of, you know, compromising their oath of offices previously, or even lacking in integrity. So you need to look at, so you can't tell me that you as a person wouldn't be better than politicians. So why are you not a member of the cabinet? So there are people of integrity that are out there who necessarily does not need to be guides.
That's an interesting one, but it will be quite shocking that you would not be able to find, you know, people who are, should I use the word now, corruption-free in his political party.
No, it's going to be extremely difficult. Like I told you, the significant difference between the two major political parties is Buhari. And as far as we can see, which is clear, is to the extent that the next level of demand, and also which is why And I'm sure the visit to the U.S. Also with where he made the revelation would also must have been so shocking to him, and at the level of information that he probably got from there, that the assumptions even about people he had earlier trusted, there were people around us, even around him, very close to him, that were already being touted for certain offices. And the latest appointment quite also revealed that many of them could not make the offices. Because when the security checks were conducted on them, they were so shocking to the president. And I'm sure the American tribunals have also revealed further to him that some of them he assumed also of lesser evil, more than what he probably knew before now. So for us, the key thing from this point is that no, it can't rely on politicians. One, political family and party. Two, it has to be done right for once, and at this point, it has to be based on professionalism. And it is not about playing politics now, it's about governance. So there must be the different levels. Yeah.
Let's be realistic for once. I mean, you don't expect that the cabinet of the president will just be composed basically of people, you know, people who are not in his political party, not members of his political party, people completely outside the political system. That would not be realistic in a democratic setting. It's difficult to see that happen.
All right. No, it's not just going to be going to big PDP or ABGA or whatever. When I say it's not going to be, that's why I said it's immediate political. It's not going to be about those who have invested in his emergence as president. There are many of his political party or political affiliations or even sympathy for his political parties that probably would not be ordinarily mentioned by the political godfathers. And you know, many of them are based on nomination, recommendation, references. He has to look outside those immediate ones. And that's why I said it does not necessarily need to be immediate members of that close political party, godfathers and friends. It has to be based on, even if they are members of the political parties, it has to be based on pure professionalism. And we don't need to have former governors, former senators, former House of Rep members, former what and former. We need new bloods to be injected into the system. And those are the ones that and those are the places where I can find very substantial number of people to be appointed, but with little or lesser integrity deficit to be put in there. And then there must be a mix. And this time we need to get it right. And he also needs to get it right. He has that duty to get it right. There must be a clear mix of these technocrats and then some politicians. And there are offices that would be meant for politicians, and there are offices that would have to be meant for professionals. So there is a need to also differentiate, you know, between those that he would want to strike the balance.
But to be candid, you don't think 4 months is actually a long time. And whether we like it or not, this economy is suffering because there are certain decisions that cannot be taken at the moment, whether or not you like it. The other day we had, just hold on now.
Don't let us join the politicians. I know
no,
we are
but just hold on.
But
just hold on.
I agree with you entirely. The economy will suffer inevitably. Certain, even the currency is suffering. Even the issue of intervention in the Boko Haram, the failure to also interfere or even intervene in the crisis with the fight against Boko Haram did suffer until we have this new, the change of guards with the service chiefs. And like you said, the economy is going to suffer. It's inevitable. The earlier the president gets it right, the better for us. The earlier he puts in an economic team that will either channel or design an economic agenda for him, the better for us. The earlier we get them cracking, the better for us. But he must get it right. And like I'm saying, let us take away the campaign from the politicians. Let us be citizen-based to the extent that the politicians will tell you, oh, is the economy suffering? No, so you need we want to get something right. So when we're making the demands, our demands should be issue-based to the extent that we want to get our eyes on the goal, and the goal is to get the right set of people to do the work, not just to get people to start doing the work. So if the politicians succeed in stampeding him to just appoint the usual politician-based cabinet, the usual set of people, then we would have lost the fight. But as much as we want it to happen like yesterday, but we want to ensure that there must be a minimum standard, a minimum threshold that we will set for both the president in appointing, and that is one of the things that we fail to do. We need to set a minimum, we need to have a basic check on those that would have to be appointed by the president. And we need to start making that demand as urgent as possible.
Now, how exactly would you respond to the statement from Professor Aki Oyebode, who said that the president's delay and in making up his mind, you know, that he doesn't want to make mistakes, it could be some form of disability in itself? Well,
actually, you know, we respond to situations differently. It could be a measure when I really didn't even get to listen to the context that the prof must have actually made that statement. There are different ways that we respond to situations. His own response to a measure of surprise and shock, the recovery period might be longer than my own or might be longer than yours. There are some of us that probably can respond immediately and then take the next line of action. And ease might take longer. It probably might not be a sign of weakness. It could be a sign of, like you said, disability. If I want to agree or concede to the choice of word by Professor Oyebode, but understanding the complex nature of Nigeria, you would want to agree that there is a need and a reason for a proper thought through on many of these issues before you want to take a decision. It is sometimes better to make some of the mistakes, but if you can see that this is going to lead to a mistake, you don't want to say that it is better for me to make a mistake than not take a decision. If you know that your decision is not going to achieve the set out goals or your own objective, I think it's going to be foolish to make such a decision when you know that it's going to lead to either an error or a mistake.
All right, Mr. Lanre Surratt, thank you very much for your contributions. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
It's always my pleasure.
Thank you. We'll take another break, and when we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions. Welcome back. Now, still talking about Buhari's inability or delay in forming his cabinet. The fact is that it is taking a toll on the economy, and that's what economic experts have been saying. We have to take a lesson now to a soundbite from the central bank governor. I'm talking about Mr. Godwin Emefiele, when they had the last monetary policy committee meeting, and he did allude to the fact that, look, it's difficult for monetary policy committee to deal with the fall in the value of the naira and address some of the economic challenges in the country without the fiscal side being addressed. Let's take a lesson now to Godwin Emefiele speaking on the issue of the falling value of the naira now and all the issues now affecting the country's currency and what he thinks needs to be done.
And about the trends in key macroeconomic indices in the first half of 2015. The committee acknowledged the absence of easy choices in the circumstance, but monetary policy alone remains handicapped and would require urgent complementary fiscal policies to define the path of growth and create the basis for stabilization. Consequently, the impact of the hard choices to be made by monetary policy could remain largely limited under the prevailing circumstances.
Governor there clearly explaining that under the prevailing circumstance, there's a limit to which monetary policy can be used to address the current situation with the country's currency without fiscal policy, that you actually need fiscal policy to support. But let's also take a lesson to a professor of international law and diplomacy, Professor Akin Oyebode, carpeting the president for being too careful and saying it could be some form of disability that he has not been able to form his cabinet at the moment. Let's take a listen to the professor of international law.
We are bewildered by 2 months without a cabinet. But the president says he's taking his time because he doesn't want to make mistakes. Now, if you don't want to make mistakes, you can't make any progress. You should just be able to explain your mistakes and move on. But if you are too careful, which I believe the president is, it might be actually a disability. So, but I'm sure if you have the right persons in the right places, I'm sure many of the things that we are talking about will be taken care of.
Well, I'm now being joined on the program by Mr. Johnson Chukwu, who is the MD of Carrier Asset Management and also an economic analyst. Mr. Godwin, thank you, Mr. Johnson, I should say, Chukwu, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Are you quite surprised that up till this moment, President Buhari has not formed his cabinet and has actually said he's going to do that by September?
Yes, absolutely. The delay in forming the cabinet is taking a toll on the business segment. One would have expected that, given that the swearing-in was 2 months after the election, that the president should have at least selected his core team, not necessarily have to populate all the ministries, but would have selected his core team members that would have headed things like Ministry of Finance, Agriculture, Health, Education, those core ministries. One would have expected that that team would have been in place from day one, and then that would have steadied the economy.
Give us a sense of, how this is affecting the economy. Earlier, we had the CBN governor saying, look, you need the fiscal side of things to halt the slide in the naira and to address the situation with our currency, that monetary policy alone is not enough. Can you just give us a sense of how this, for instance, could be affecting the economy and especially the naira, for instance?
Okay, if you look at the issues are this. Investment inflow has slowed down. We saw a drop in investment to about more than 48% drop in investment in the second quarter of the year. We are seeing a situation where instead of bringing in inflows, both foreign direct investors and foreign portfolio investors coming into the country, they are rather exiting the country because of policy uncertainty. We are also seeing a situation where even Nigerian investors cannot take positions, long-term positions on any asset class, because they do not know the economic direction of the government. So these factors are actually leading to a slowdown in economic activity. If you look at, for instance, consumer business, you find that there is a slowdown in consumption. We've seen a depreciation of naira because the physical side of the economic management is absent. So what would have stabilized the exchange rate in terms of foreign direct investment inflows, in terms of growth in the real sector economy, is not there. We saw the economy grow about 3.96% in the first quarter of the year. And all things being equal, that may actually be a very optimistic growth if we compare where we are today to what happened in the first quarter when the economy grew lowest in the past 5 years. So
go ahead.
We are seeing a situation where companies in the real sector can no longer assess effect. And because of the constraints put in place by the central bank to moderate the valuation of the currency, we are beginning to see Nigerian importers and businesses unable to meet their obligations to their foreign suppliers. So you're going to see credit from foreign fund providers dry up from the economy. And that will further slow down the growth that's expected of this economy. So we need to have the key government officials, the key members of the economic management team.
Could I just quickly ask you a question? Explain this to a common man. How does the non-appointment of ministers affect, all those things you've identified?
Okay, well, basically what happens is that when you have the cabinet in place, policies are well defined. One is able to know which direction to take. If you take, for instance, a classical ministry like trade and investment, it was a policy decision of the Minister of Trade and Investment that led to the growth in the cement industry from a 2 million metric tons production per annum to about 30 million metric tons per annum today.
Absolutely.
It was those policy decisions that made the likes of Dangote, Lafarge, Buhari to invest in cement manufacturing. Investors are waiting on the sideline, waiting to know what direction the government wants to go. And that will only come if you have ministers in place that will define those directions. So the absence of ministers will not allow people to know which side the government is going to take. And as long as they do not know what government wants to do, they're not going to put down their investment. And that's why we talk of slow down investment and slow down economic activities.
Do you suspect that the president is just being unnecessarily careful here? Just as Professor Akin Oyebode said earlier, that, look, if you don't make mistakes, you can't make progress. That the president is just being unnecessarily careful and that it could also be a problem of disability.
Well, the way I would see it is that we in leadership, we agree that do nothing is not an option. In leadership practice, it is better accepted that you make mistakes than you do nothing. Because the economy cannot be a standstill. If the president makes a mistake in appointing the wrong people into key positions, he also has the power to fire.
That's quite right.
I can tell you that his anti-corruption war will be more effective if he fires a corrupt minister than not appoint ministers. So
you're absolutely
the approach
right.
should be to take decisions on who is appropriately qualified to man those positions. And if those people come into positions of authority and he finds out that they are lacking in character, then he also has the power to fire them, and that will actually send a stronger signal than to sit back and do nothing, looking for sense to man those posts.
Now, we're just in the month of August, and the president has made it clear that he's not going to form his cabinet. He's not going to make those appointments now until September. The whole of August, we're still going to... There must be a cost. There must be an economic cost to this. Can you just give us a sense of what the cost could be for Nigeria?
Well, the cost will be a slowdown in economic growth. It will include investors who have come to Nigeria going to places like Angola. Today, Angola is gradually going to overtake Nigeria in terms of production of crude. Because investments do not sit by the sideline and wait for you, because the investment has cost. So we will see situations where some investors who are going to come to Nigeria to take advantage of Nigeria will move elsewhere. We are going to see situations where companies are going to slow down and some of them will retrench because they do not have the market for their product is shrinking. Because government consumption is also going down. And previously, government accounts for a reasonable proportion of consumption in the local economy. Now that government has become relatively inactive, you are going to see a slowdown in consumption, which will lead to a slowdown in GDP growth rate and a slowdown in level of employment. So those things are going to reflect in families having higher number of their members not being employed and their cost of living dropping. Their standard of living dropping.
And that would surely not be good news for Nigerians, and not good news for the president as well.
And I also don't think that is what the president intends to achieve. I think it's at variance with the promises that the president and his party, the APC, made to Nigerians to create more jobs, to improve on the living standard of Nigerians.
Absolutely. But finally, just before I let you go, the currency. I mean, it appears we're beginning to see the Naira pick up. You think this is going to be a sustained run?
No, I don't think it will be sustained. If you consider the fact that the Naira is appreciating because of administrative bottlenecks created by the central bank to conserve the exchange, the Naira, to conserve dollar. But beyond that, we also know that there are several matured obligations in terms of bills for collection that are due for payment, unconfirmed letters of credit that have matured, open accounts that are due for payment, confirmation lines that are matured and due for payment that central bank has not been able to provide dollar for those obligors to satisfy the obligations to their foreign partner. So if you take a sum of that, you will actually see that the appreciation of Naira is notional, given also that crude prices is still declining. And the outlook for crude is also negative, in the sense that Iran is coming back to the market, and production of Iran will further increase the oversupply in the market, and it's expected that crude prices will drop further. So we are having a drop in the earnings of the government, in terms of foreign exchange earnings of the government. And as long as that does not reverse, there is no basis for us to see appreciation of the dollar of the Naira other than the trading bond that have been created by the central bank.
So you would still insist on your position that the Naira needs to be devalued further?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Johnson Chukwu, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Thank you very much for your thoughts, as always. Well, that's it on the program. If you want to watch it again, it's simple. Just go to our website, tv360nigeria.com. You'll find the program and lots more there. You can also watch us on YouTube by subscribing to our YouTube channel. It's actually youtube.com/TV360 Nigeria. Just follow us on Google Plus at TV360 Nigeria. Or like us on Facebook. The address is facebook.com/TV360 online. You can also follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @TV360 online. Thank you very much for watching. We're back again next week. See you then.